Hey, welcome to video 24 for Mr. McGee's 9th grade biology course for Arizona School for the Arts. Today we're going to be looking at the dam effect and how it works in photosynthesis and in respiration. No, we're not talking about this kind of dam. That's a beaver dam. Adorable. No, we're not talking about this kind of dam much, but it does give us a good analogy to work with. So take a look at this. This is a hydroelectric dam diagram, right? How does this work? Well, behind the dam, all this dam water collects, and it doesn't want to stay there. It wants to flow downhill, but the dam is in the way, so the dam water can't get downhill where it wants to go. So, how do we use this to create energy? Well, every once in a while, the engineers who run the dam will open up a hole, and that will let some of this dam water out so that it can continue to flow downhill, right? So the water goes through the dam, and that's supposed to be an arrow, and then downhill like this, right? And the water, as it flows through, spins these little turbines, and that creates electricity. Bzz, bzz. Those are lightning bolts, sort of, I guess. Orange lightning bolts. So the dam water that's all built up behind the dam flows through the dam, past the dam turbines, spinning the dam turbines as it flows downhill, creating dam electricity. Brilliant. Now, something similar could happen inside a cell. If you had a membrane, which is what this red line represents, and if you had charged particles on one side of the membrane, these blue dots represent hydrogen ions, which if you remember have a positive charge. So here's this buildup of hydrogen ions, and on the other side of this membrane there's a lack of hydrogen ions, and so it induces a negative charge. Now you know from previous classes that when you have a positive charge in one particle, that it's going to be attracted to the negative charge in other particles, and that's no different here. These hydrogen ions want to get out to this negative side of the membrane, but because this membrane doesn't allow them to move through it, they are stuck there. Now, think about what would happen if you had a channel, like a hole in the dam. Now the positive charges on the bottom will want to move across to the negative space on the top, and they can do it through this channel, like so. Here's some hydrogen ions. Yay! Now when they do this, they're actually moving through a molecule called ATP synthase that rotates. And when it rotates, it grabs ADP and PI, and it creates ATP, the energy currency of the cell. So that's how the dam effect works. Let's see what it looks like in actual plant and animal cells. Voila! This is the light-dependent reactions. The worst French accent ever. Alright, this is really, really confusing, and I don't want to bog you down with details, but I do want you to notice a couple of things. Let's follow the flow of electrons and hydrogen ions through this process. So we're going to start over here with sunlight. Sunlight is going to excite this little guy right here, this little electron. And when this little guy gets excited, he moves through a bunch of different molecules, and he uses the energy of that excited electron to move hydrogen ions inside the thylakoid. Now, when he gets to this little molecule here, another photon excites him again. And then that excited electron can be picked up and used for energy later. It's picked up by NADP and hydrogen ion and used to make NADPH, which is going to go to the Calvin cycle. So it leaves. But notice all the hydrogen ions. Hydrogen ions are being shipped inside the thylakoid, and they're also being created when water gets converted into oxygen and hydrogen ions. Now let's take a closer look. So look at these hydrogen ions here. They're going to be moving through ATP synthase, and ATP synthase then rotates to take ADP and PI and create ATP. So the electrons get excited, they move around pumping hydrogen inside a thylakoid. The thylakoid fills up with hydrogen ions that move through ATP synthase, and that's how we create ATP. Something similar happens in the mitochondria, but instead of light, we get some of the high-energy electrons from the Krebs cycle. Those high-energy electrons are going to move through a series of molecules and eventually get picked up in water molecules. And their energy will be used to move hydrogen ions inside the space between the inner and outer membranes of the mitochondria. When those hydrogen ions build up, they want to move back into the matrix of the mitochondria, and they can only do that through ATP synthase. So ATP synthase then rotates, creating ATP. Confusing? I know. We're going to talk about this, we're going to read about it, we're going to go over it in class. That's the end. The Dam effect. How do you create ATP? It's awesome. Here's your bunny.